In the heart of a snow-draped St. Petersburg, Anna Petrova, a talented art restorer, steps into the opulent world of Dmitry Volkov, a billionaire with a heart as cold as the Russian winter. Bound by a mysterious contract, Anna navigates a palace of golden domes and marble halls, where luxury hides secrets and every choice tests her courage. As she fights for her son, Misha, and grapples with her growing connection to Dmitry, a story of sacrifice, hope, and unexpected bonds unfolds against the glittering backdrop of a city frozen in time. Snow fell in delicate veils over St. Petersburg, blanketing the golden domes of St. Isaac's Cathedral and the drawbridges spanning the Neva River. In the heart of the city, in a district where imperial history mingled with modern splendor, stood the Romanov Hotel, a palace of glass and marble that seemed to defy the Russian winter with its opulence. It was there, in a ballroom inspired by the Winter Palace, that Anna Petrova's fate was about to change forever. Anna, a 28-year-old art restorer, adjusted the simple black dress she had barely managed to buy at a second-hand shop. The fabric, though elegant, felt out of place amid the golden reflections of the ballroom. Her golden brown hair was tied in a low bun, but a few rebellious strands escaped, framing her pale face. Her green eyes, usually vibrant, were clouded with anxiety as she hid in a corner, near a crimson velvet curtain that cascaded from the vaulted ceiling. The ballroom was a breathtaking sight. Swarovski crystal chandeliers hung like constellations, casting prisms of light across the polished black marble floor. Tables draped in white linen displayed arrangements of black roses and imported orchids, while waiters in impeccable uniforms glided through the room with flutes of bubbling Krug champagne. The air was thick with the scent of expensive oud and the low murmur of male voices punctuated by occasional laughter. Anna clasped her hands tightly, her short nails digging into her palms. Each heartbeat seemed to echo the weight of the decisions that had brought her here. In her modest apartment on the city's outskirts, Misha, her 6-year-old son, slept under the care of an elderly neighbor, Senora Olga. Overdue bills piled up on the kitchen table: rent, electricity, Misha's asthma medication. The threat of eviction loomed like a shadow, and the nights when Misha went to bed hungry had become far too frequent. Anna, once a promising artist, had sacrificed her dreams to raise her son alone after Misha's father abandoned them. Now, with the doors of the future closing, she had made the most desperate decision of her life: to participate in a secret auction where women were offered as commodities to the world's wealthiest men. "Are you ready, Miss Petrova?" Yalf, organizer's voice, a thin man in an impeccable gray suit, cut through her thoughts. He wore a forced smile, his eyes as cold as the marble beneath his feet. Anna swallowed hard, feeling a knot in her throat. I think so," she murmured, her voice trembling. The man tilted his head, assessing her as if she were a piece of art on display. "Keep your composure. Smile, and don't look directly at the guests," he instructed before walking away, his polished shoes clicking against the floor. Anna took a deep breath, trying to ignore the tremor in her legs. The ballroom was filled with men in tailored suits, some with diamond-encrusted watches glinting under the light, others holding Cuban cigars that exhaled aromatic smoke. They watched her, not as a person, but as an object to be acquired. A rare gem in a collector's auction. Suddenly, the organizer's voice echoed through the room, amplified by invisible microphones. "Lot number 17. He made a theatrical gesture, pointing at Anna. "Anna Petrova, a true pearl of the Baltic, with the grace of a tsarina and the strength of a survivor." Anna's legs felt like lead as she climbed the marble steps to the stage. Golden spotlights enveloped her, momentarily blinding her. The heat of the lights brought beads of sweat to her forehead, and she blinked, trying to adjust her eyes to the glare. The audience murmured, a hum of approval that made her stomach churn. She tried to keep her head high, but she felt the predatory gazes fixed on her, dissecting every detail of her appearance. The organizer continued, his voice honeyed. "An exotic beauty with artistic talents and a story of resilience. Who will place the first bid?" The silence that followed was deafening. Anna bit her lip, her heart racing. She thought of Misha, his innocent smile, the drawings he made with crayons on the kitchen table. It was for him that she was here, for him that she would endure any humiliation. 3 million rubles. A deep authoritative voice cut through the silence, reverberating off the ballroom's walls. Every head turned to the back of the room. Seated in a black leather chair apart from the rest of the audience was Dmitry Volkov. Known as the Tsar, billionaire of technology. He was an almost mythical figure in St. Petersburg, a man whose fortune rivaled that of the most powerful oligarchs. His gray eyes, cold as the ice of the Neva, fixed on Anna with an intensity that made her shiver. He wore a tailored black suit with a sapphire brooch gleaming on his chest, and his brown hair was swept back, revealing chiseled features and an impenetrable expression. Around him, discreet security guards kept their distance, while a fleet of luxury cars, including a golden Bugatti Chiron and an armored Urus Senate limousine, waited outside, visible through the smoked glass windows. The organizer, visibly startled by the opening bid, stammered before repeating, 3 million rubles, ladies and gentlemen. Do we have any further bids? The room remained silent. No one dared challenge Dmitry Volkov. Sold, the organizer exclaimed, striking the gavel with a satisfied smile. Anna felt her legs weaken, but she forced herself to descend the stage with dignity. Her heart pounded so fiercely she feared everyone could hear it. Dmitry rose, moving with the grace of a predator, and walked toward her. His Italian shoes echoed on the marble, and his woody cologne enveloped her as he stopped. A few steps away, Miss Petrova, he said, his voice low but firm, with a faint Russian accent that carried authority. We need to discuss the terms. He extended his hand, a gesture that felt more like a command than an invitation. Anna hesitated, her eyes locked on his, searching for some trace of humanity. But all she saw was a calculated void. Where are we going? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. A more private place, he replied, offering no further details. Anna swallowed her fear and placed her hand in his, feeling the chill of his fingers. He led her through a side door, away from the ballrooms, gazes into a private room decorated with mahogany panels and a Persian rug that cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime. An ebony table displayed a bottle of Beluga Gold Line vodka with crystal glasses beside it. But Dmitry offered no drink. Instead, he gestured to a red leather armchair. Sit, he said, picking up a black leather envelope from the table. Anna obeyed, her hands trembling in her lap. Dmitry opened the envelope and handed her a document. Read it carefully. Anna took the contract, the printed letters dancing before her eyes. The clauses were clear and cruel. She was to undergo in vitro fertilization, bear an heir for Dmitry, and after the birth, disappear. In return, she would receive the money to secure Misha's future. She looked up, her face pale. You want me to have a child and abandon it? She asked, her voice breaking. Dmitry crossed his arms, the sapphire brooch catching the light. Exactly. I need an heir for the Volkov empire. The contract is clear. Anna felt a surge of indignation. This is inhumane. How can you buy a person and discard them like this? Dmitry's eyes narrowed, but his voice remained calm. I paid 3 million rubles, Miss Petrova. This wasn't a whim. You made a choice when you stepped onto that stage. Anna gripped the contract, her nails tearing the paper. I did this for my son, not for you. For a moment, something flickered in Dmitry's eyes. Curiosity, perhaps? But he quickly regained his composure. Sign, he said, placing a Mont Blanc pen on the table. After the baby is born, you'll be free to move on with your life. Anna stared at the pen, then at the contract. She thought of Misha, his feverish nights, the worn-out shoes he wore. Tears threatened to fall, but she held them back. With a trembling hand, she picked up the pen and signed, feeling as though she were sealing her own soul. Dmitry took the document, folded it carefully, and tucked it into the envelope. Tomorrow you'll be taken to my mansion, he said, turning to leave. Rest, You'll need it. The door closed behind him, leaving Anna alone in the room. She looked at her hands, where the pen's ink had left a smudge. The weight of her decision suffocated her, but for Misha, she would face whatever came. Outside, the snow continued to fall, cloaking St. Petersburg in an icy silence. Dawn in St. Petersburg brought a pale light, filtered through gray clouds hovering over the Neva River. The snow piled up on the streets reflected the glow of wrought iron street lamps, while the icy wind whispered through the city's golden domes. Anna Petrova, her eyes swollen from a sleepless night, stood before the small apartment where she had left Misha, her 6-year-old son. The chipped wooden door, painted a faded green, seemed like a portal to a world she feared she might never reclaim. Inside, Misha slept, his serene little face nestled in a worn pillow. Anna knelt beside the bed, stroking the boy's brown hair, so similar to her own. "I'll be back soon, my love," she whispered, her voice choked. "Mommy needs to work a little far away, but I'll call you all the time." Misha, still, half asleep, opened his green eyes and smiled, trusting, unaware of the pain consuming his mother. He waved his tiny hand, and Anna felt her heart shatter. Donna Olga, the elderly neighbor with kind eyes, placed a hand on her shoulder, promising to care for Misha as if he were her grandson. Anna hugged her son one last time, memorizing the warmth of his body, before standing and leaving, each step a struggle against the gravity of goodbye. Outside, a black Oris Senate limousine, with smoked windows and gleaming chrome details, waited. The driver, a man in an impeccable uniform and an impassive expression, opened the rear door without a word. Anna hesitated, looking at the gray concrete building where she had lived for the past few years. The cracked facade and faded curtains contrasted with the luxury of the vehicle that would take her to an unknown world. With a trembling sigh, she stepped in, sinking into the soft leather seat. The limousine's interior was a sanctuary of opulence: polished walnut panels, a minibar with crystal bottles of artisanal vodka, and a built-in screen displaying aerial views of St. Petersburg. The car glided silently through the streets, and Anna fixed her gaze on the window, watching the city's outlines dissolve into a blur of snow and stone. The journey lasted about an hour, crossing ornate bridges and neighborhoods where historic palaces coexisted with modern skyscrapers. Finally, the car slowed before a wrought iron gate, topped with golden eagles with outstretched wings. The gate opened with a soft hum, revealing an avenue lined with snow-covered pines, leading to a breathtaking neoclassical mansion. Dmitry Volkov's residence seemed like a palace from an imperial fairy tale. White marble columns supported a monumental portico, golden domes gleamed against the gray sky, and hand-painted stained glass windows adorned the facade, casting colorful mosaics onto the entrance floor. A frozen fountain, sculpted with nymphs and seahorses, dominated the central courtyard, while gardeners in discreet uniforms swept snow from the gravel paths. Anna stepped out of the car, the cold air biting her skin. Her worn shoes sank slightly into the snow, and she pulled her tattered coat around her body, feeling tiny before the grandeur of the place. A tall man in a black suit and earpiece approached, nodding curtly. "Miss Petrova, this way," he said, guiding her to the main entrance. The double doors, carved with scenes of czarist battles, opened to reveal a monumental foyer. The floor was a mosaic of onyx and white marble, reflecting the light of an amber chandelier that seemed to float like a crown of fire. Curved staircases, with golden railings, led to the upper floors, and blue velvet tapestries hung from the walls, embroidered with gold threads depicting the history of the Romanov dynasty. The scent of Orthodox incense, mingled with the fragrance of fresh roses, lingered in the air, creating an atmosphere both sacred and opulent. A middle-aged woman with gray hair tied in an impeccable bun approached. Her navy blue dress was simple yet elegant, and her brown eyes sparkled with a kindness that eased Anna's chest. "Welcome, Miss Petrova. I'm Irina, the housekeeper," she said with a warm smile. "I'll show you to your room." Anna nodded, unable to form words, and followed Irina down a corridor lined with portraits of czars and tsarinas, whose stern gazes seemed to judge her. Crystal candelabras tinkled softly with the draft, and the sound of their footsteps echoed on the polished floor. Anna's room was a sanctuary of luxury that left her breathless. The walls were clad in sea-green silk, with golden moldings highlighting frescoes of angels and clouds. A king-size bed draped in Egyptian linen and velvet pillows dominated the space, while a smaller amber chandelier hung from the ceiling, casting a soft glow. A marble balcony overlooked the Neva River, where icebergs floated like ghosts in the twilight. On a mahogany dresser stood a crystal vase with white lilies, and a built-in wardrobe revealed haute couture dresses, high heels, and jewelry Anna had never dreamed of owning. In the corner, a desk displayed an ancient Orthodox icon, with the Virgin Mary painted in shades of gold and blue, a reminder of Russian spirituality that contrasted with the coldness of the contract. "If you need anything, just call," Irina said, pointing to a silver intercom on the wall. "Mr. Volkov will meet with you soon." Anna thanked her with a nod, her voice caught in her throat. When Irina left, Anna collapsed onto the bed, the soft fabric embracing her exhausted body. The room's silence was oppressive, broken only by the ticking of a Fabergé clock on the dresser. Anna opened her worn bag, pulling out a crumpled photo of Misha, smiling with a crooked woolen hat. She pressed the photo to her chest, tears streaming down her face. "For you, my love," she murmured, her voice muffled. A firm knock on the door made her jump. Before she could respond, Dmitry Volkov entered, his presence filling the room like a storm. He wore a dark gray suit, with a Patek Philippe watch gleaming on his wrist, and his gray eyes studied her with an intensity that made her recoil. "Miss Petrova," he said, his deep voice echoing in the space. "I trust the room is adequate." Anna stood, wiping her tears quickly. "It's more than I expected," she replied, trying to maintain her composure. Dmitry's gaze swept the room, as if checking every detail before returning to her. "You'll have privacy here," he continued, crossing his arms. "But let me be clear. I expect you to fulfill the contract without question. Tomorrow we'll begin the medical exams. A trusted doctor will come to start the fertilization process." Anna felt a chill down her spine. "So soon?" she asked, her voice trembling. Dmitry raised an eyebrow, his face impassive. "Time is a luxury I don't waste. You signed the contract. You know what's at stake." She clutched Misha's photo to her chest, hiding it from Dmitry. "I know," she said, lowering her eyes. "But is that all I am now? A part of a contract?" For a moment, Dmitry's eyes seemed to waver, as if the question had caught him off guard. But he regained his coldness quickly. "You are what you chose to be, Miss Petrova," he replied, heading for the door. "Rest, a car will take you to the doctor in the morning." The door closed with a soft click, leaving Anna alone again. She walked to the balcony, the cold marble under her bare feet sending shivers through her body. The Neva River stretched before her, its frozen surface reflecting the distant city lights. The mansion, with its overwhelming opulence, was an alien world, a palace where she felt more a prisoner than a guest. Anna pressed her forehead against the glass door, her breath fogging the surface. She thought of Misha, the promise she'd made to protect him, and the contract that bound her to Dmitry. The weight of her decision grew with each passing second. But she knew there was no turning back. For Misha, she would face the coldness of the Tsar Billionaire and the secrets that palace held. Winter in St. Petersburg enveloped the city in a mantle of icy silence, with snow falling in delicate flakes that piled up on the golden domes and iron bridges crossing the Neva River. In Dmitry Volkov's imperial mansion, Anna Petrova's life was a precarious balance between longing for her son Misha and the coldness of the contract that bound her to that palace of opulence. Each dawn brought the same ritual. Irina, the kind-eyed housekeeper, entered Anna's room with a silver tray, bringing steaming black tea in an ornate samovar and freshly baked honey biscuits. The room, with its sea-green silk walls, frescoes of angels and golden moldings, and an amber chandelier casting a soft glow, was a sanctuary of beauty, but also a cage where Anna felt watched, like a rare piece in a crystal display case. That morning, The sky was heavy, a gray that seemed to swallow. The sunlight, Anna, sitting on the edge of the king-size bed draped in Egyptian linen, held Misha's crumpled photo, tracing the outline of his smiling face with her fingers. The boy, with his tousled brown hair and a crooked woolen hat, seemed so distant, as if he belonged to another life. Anna wore a simple blue sweater and worn jeans, her old clothes contrasting with the wardrobe full of haute couture dresses Irina insisted she wear. The weight of the contract, the promise to bear an heir for Dmitry and then disappear, pressed on her chest, making each breath an effort. She walked to the marble balcony, the cold biting her bare feet, and looked at the Neva River, where icebergs floated like ghosts in the pale light. The city, with its cathedrals and palaces, seemed a distant dream, separated from her by an abyss of luxury and loneliness. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Irina entered, her impeccable gray dress and gray hair tied in a severe bun. "Good morning, Miss Petrova," she said with a smile that softened the room. "Mr. Volkov asked you to meet him in the library at 10. He wants to discuss your commitments." Anna felt a knot in her throat. Commitments was the word Irina used to avoid mentioning the contract directly, an attempt to spare Anna the cruelty of her reality. "Thank you, Irina," she replied, her voice low. She hesitated, then added, "Is there something I can do here? I'm not used to sitting idle." Irina tilted her head, her brown eyes sparkling with a mix of surprise and empathy. "Well, there's an ancient Orthodox icon in the library that needs restoration. Mr. Volkov knows you're an art restorer. Perhaps you could take a look?" Anna's face lit up, a spark of life in her green eyes. Restoration was her passion, the only space where she felt in control. "I'd love to," she said, a shy smile curving her lips. Irina nodded, pleased, and left the tray on the desk, promising to escort her to the library later. At 10 sharp, Anna followed Irina through corridors that seemed straight out of an imperial tale. The walls were lined with carved oak panels, with golden threads gleaming under the light of crystal candelabras. They passed a trophy room filled with sculpted stag heads and ceremonial swords in display cases, and a mirrored gallery where Anna's reflection, pale and tense, seemed to multiply endlessly. The library, when they finally reached it, was a sanctuary of knowledge that made Anna stop, her breath caught in her throat. Mahogany shelves rose to the vaulted ceiling, painted with frescoes of clouds and stars. Spiral iron staircases led to mezzanines crammed with leather-bound books, their titles embossed in Cyrillic gold. A white marble fireplace crackled, the scent of birchwood mingling with the smell of old parchment. In the center, an ebony table displayed bronze globes and faded maps, while a gilded bronze chandelier cast dancing shadows across the room. Dmitry stood by a tall window, holding a Yahidi crystal glass with an amber liquid that reflected the firelight. He wore a tailored dark blue suit, with a gray silk tie matching his cold eyes, and a sapphire brooch pinned to his chest. His brown hair swept back gave him an air of unquestionable command. When Anna entered, he turned, his gray eyes fixing on her with an intensity that made her recoil instinctively. "Miss Petrova," he said, his deep voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "Sit." Anna obeyed, choosing a green leather chair near the mahogany desk. Irina withdrew quietly, closing the double doors with a soft click. Dmitry approached the desk, pointing to a velvet stand where an ancient Orthodox icon rested. The cracked and faded painting depicted St. Nicholas, with a golden halo and stern eyes. "It's from the 18th century, from the Pskov school," he said, his voice neutral. "If you think you can handle it, the work is yours." Anna approached the icon, her fingers hesitating before touching the aged wood. The rough texture under her nails brought a wave of familiarity, as if she had found an old friend. "I can do this," she said, her voice steady for the first time since arriving at the mansion. "I've restored pieces like this before. It'll take time, but I can bring it back." Dmitry raised an eyebrow, a faint glint of interest in his eyes. "Good. Keeping busy will help you adjust." He took a sip of the cognac, the glass clinking against his fingers. "The medical Exams are scheduled for tomorrow. Everything is prepared for the next step. Anna felt a chill down her spine. The next step was the in vitro fertilization, the beginning of the process that would turn her into a piece of the Volkov empire. "So soon?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Isn't there some time to prepare?" Dmitry tilted his head, his face impassive. "Time is a resource I don't waste, Miss Petrova. You signed the contract, you know what's at stake." Anna lowered her eyes, her nails digging into her palms. "You talk as if I were a machine," she murmured, almost inaudibly. As if this meant nothing. For a moment the silence was so thick that the crackling of the fireplace seemed deafening. Dmitry set the glass down on the table with a sharp sound, his eyes narrowing. "You chose to be here," he said, his voice low but sharp. "Don't blame me for the consequences of your decisions." Anna bit her lip, suppressing a retort. Before she could speak, an unexpected sound broke the tension, the faint chirping of a bird. Both looked toward the window, where a small sparrow, its wings trembling against the cold, pecked at the glass. Dmitry frowned, striding to the window with firm steps. He opened the pane with a smooth motion, letting the icy air flood the room. The bird flew inside, landing on the table, its feathers ruffled with fear. To Anna's astonishment, Dmitry picked it up with an unexpected gentleness, his large hands cradling the tiny creature. "You don't belong here," he murmured, almost as if speaking to himself before releasing it back into the snowy sky. Anna watched, her heart racing. That simple act, so human, seemed to belong to another man. Dmitry turned to her, catching her gaze, and quickly regained his composure. "Start the restoration tomorrow," he said, his voice firm. "And be ready for the dinner tonight. We have important guests tonight. Irina will assist you prepare." Before Anna could respond, he left, his footsteps echoing in the corridor. She lingered in the library, approaching the sculpture with a sigh. The work grounded her, a thread of connection to who she was before entering that palace. Hours later, Irina found her there, her hands stained with gold and her eyes focused on the painting. "You have a gift," Irina said, blushing the head, "but now you need to get ready for dinner." He nodded, satisfied. The dinner was served in a grand ballroom that seemed a golden dream. The walls were lined with gold and Venetian mirrors reflecting the light from a chandelier that cascaded like a fountain of diamonds. Anna, dressed in a black velvet gown chosen by Irina, felt like an imposter among the guests. Russian magnates, diplomats in tuxedos, and women in glittering jewels. Dmitry, at the head of the table covered with a white damask tablecloth, was the evening's maestro, his charismatic laugh echoing as he toasted with a glass of Beluga Gold Line vodka. And, "Who's this lovely company?" asked a burly man with a gray goatee and a Rolex gleaming on his wrist. He looked at Anna, seated next to Dmitry, with a smile that made her shrink back. Dmitry set his glass down, his gray eyes locking onto the man with a coldness that silenced the room. "Anna Petrova is an art restorer staying with me," he replied, his voice firm, "and a guest who deserves respect." The man backed off, muttering an apology, and the conversation resumed. Anna glanced at Dmitry, surprised by the unexpected warmth. He didn't look back at her, but later, when the guests began dancing to the sound of a string quartet, he leaned toward her, his voice a whisper. "You're safe here." That night, unable to sleep, Anna stepped onto her balcony, the cold marble beneath her bare feet sending shivers through her body. Snow fell over St. Petersburg, cloaking the city in an ethereal silence. The Neva River glowed under the distant lights, and the mansion, with its golden domes, seemed a beacon in the darkness. Anna thought of the sparrow Dmitry had saved, the glimpse of humanity he'd shown. Perhaps there was something beyond the Tsar billionaire's mask, a crack in the armor she could explore. But the contract, with its relentless clauses, reminded her that that palace was a battlefield, and she needed to protect her heart and Misha's future at all costs. Dmitry Volkov's mansion on the banks of the Neva River was a world apart, where the Russian winter seemed to bow to the opulence of its golden domes and gleaming stained glass windows. For Anna Petrova, the days in the mansion were a tightrope, stretched between longing for her 6-year-old son, Misha, and the coldness of the contract that bound her to that palace. Each dawn brought the same ritual. The soft clink of the silver samovar that Irina, the housekeeper, placed on the desk, the aroma of black tea mingling with the scent of white lilies that refreshed the room daily. The sea-green silk walls, the amber chandelier, and the bed draped in Egyptian linen were a constant reminder of her status, a temporary guest in a realm of luxury, where every gesture was calculated, every word a risk. That afternoon, the sky over St. Petersburg was a deep gray, with heavy clouds promising more snow. Anna worked in the library, where the 18th-century Orthodox icon of St. Nicholas, its cracked paint, was slowly coming back to life under her skilled hands. The work table was covered with fine bristled brushes, vials of golden pigments, and a soft cloth stained with paint. The crackling of the white marble fireplace filled the air with the scent of birchwood, while the soft light of the gilded bronze chandelier danced across the mahogany shelves filled with ancient books. Anna wore a simple apron over a gray sweater, her golden brown hair tied in a loose bun, with strands falling over her focused face. Her green eyes gleamed with a mix of determination and melancholy as she applied a delicate layer of gold to the saint's halo, each brushstroke a refuge from the reality surrounding her. The work on the icon was her anchor, a piece of her old life that kept her sane. But even there, the longing for Misha was a constant ache. Anna kept a letter he had written before her departure, hidden inside a restoration toolkit. The childish words, scribbled in colored pencils, "Mommy, come. Back soon, I love you," were a talisman she touched in moments of despair. That afternoon, distracted by thoughts of her son, Anna left the toolkit open on the table, the letter visible among the brushes and vials. The sound of firm footsteps echoed in the corridor, and Anna looked up, her heart racing. Dmitry Volkov entered the library, his presence filling the space like a storm. He wore a tailored black suit, with a white shirt that highlighted his chiseled features, and the Patek Philippe watch gleamed on his wrist. His gray eyes, always so cold, swept the room before fixing on Anna's work table. He frowned, approaching, with slow steps, and picked up Misha's letter before she could react. "What is this?" Dmitry asked, his deep voice laced with suspicion. He held the letter between his fingers, as if it were evidence of a crime. Anna stood, the apron falling from her lap, her heart pounding. "It's mine," she said, her voice trembling as she reached out. "Please, give it back." Dmitry ignored her plea, his eyes scanning the childish words. His expression hardened, and he turned the letter toward her, pointing to the drawing of a boy and a woman holding hands. "Who is Misha?" he asked, his voice low but sharp as a blade. Anna felt the ground vanish beneath her feet. She had hidden Misha's existence since the auction, fearing Dmitry would reject her from the contract if he knew she had a son. The secret was her shield, the only way to ensure Misha stayed safe while she fulfilled the agreement. But now, with the letter in Dmitry's hands, the secret was exposed and fear choked her. She stammered, her green eyes wide, searching for an escape. "Don't lie to me," Dmitry cut in, stepping forward. The fireplace crackled in the background, but its warmth didn't reach the chill emanating from him. "You have a son. Why? Did you hide this?" Anna backed away, bumping into the table, the paint vials clinking. Tears burned her eyes, but she held them back, lifting her chin with a courage she didn't know she had. "Because I knew you wouldn't accept me," she said, her voice breaking but firm. "You wanted a woman with no ties, no complications. But Misha is my life. I did this for him to ensure he never goes hungry again, that he has a future." The silence that followed was deafening. Dmitry crumpled the letter in his hand, his knuckles whitening, and Anna felt a rising panic. "You broke my trust," he said, his voice so low it was almost a growl. "The contract demanded total transparency. How can I trust you now?" Anna stepped forward, tears finally spilling over. Trust me. You bought me, Dmitry. You treated me like a commodity from the start. I hid Misha to protect him from you. From all of this. She gestured to the library, the books, the chandelier, as if the palace itself were a threat. Have you ever thought about what it's like to sacrifice everything for someone you love? The nights I stayed awake because he had a fever and I couldn't afford medicine. Do you know what that's like? Anna's words echoed in the room, and for a moment, something shifted in Dmitry's eyes. The usual coldness gave way to a shadow of vulnerability, as if she had touched an old wound. He turned his face, staring at the fireplace where flames danced over the logs. I know more than you think, he murmured, almost inaudibly. Anna blinked, startled, but before she could ask, he turned back to her, the mask of coldness firmly in place. You should have told me from the beginning, and you would have rejected me, Anna retorted, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. I couldn't risk that. Misha depends on me. Dmitry tossed the letter onto the table, the paper landing among the brushes. He walked to the window, hands in his pockets, gazing at the snow falling over the winter garden, where exotic orchids bloomed under a glass dome. Anna watched him, her heart still racing, trying to understand the man before her. The mansion, with its marble corridors and velvet tapestries, seemed to close in around her, as if it held secrets as deep as her own. Are you going to send me away? Anna asked, her voice small, dreading the answer. Without Misha, without the contract's money, she had nothing. Dmitry remained silent for a long moment, his chiseled profile framed against the pale light of the window. Finally, he turned, his gray eyes locking onto hers. No, he said, his voice firm but less harsh. But the contract will be adjusted. You'll be allowed to visit your son regularly, as long as he doesn't know about the agreement. And you won't hide anything from me again. Understood? Anna nodded, relief mixing with exhaustion. Understood, she whispered, picking up the letter and clutching it to her chest. Dmitry walked to the door but paused, glancing at the icon on the table. Keep working, he said before leaving, his boots echoing in the corridor. That night, Anna was driven in a black Rolls-Royce Phantom to the apartment where Misha stayed with Donna Olga. The car glided through the snowy streets, its heated interior contrasting with the cold, consuming her from within. When she saw Misha running into her arms with a cry of "Mommy!" Anna dropped to her knees, hugging him tightly. The boy smelled of crayons and warm milk, and his green eyes sparkled with joy. You're back, he exclaimed, gripping her hand. For now, my love, Anna said, her voice choked, kissing his forehead. Donna Olga watched, smiling, as Anna spent the evening telling Misha stories, trying to memorize every moment. When he fell asleep, she left a note by his bedside, promising to return soon. The drive back to the mansion was silent, the weight of the reunion mingling with the pain of separation. On her room's balcony, under the falling snow, Anna gazed at St. Petersburg, the city lights reflecting on the Neva River. The mansion, with its czarist opulence, was a labyrinth of secrets and promises. Dmitry knew about Misha now, and though the contract's adjustment was a relief, Anna felt the battle was just beginning. The flicker of vulnerability in Dmitry's eyes intrigued her, but the contract still reminded her of her place. For Misha, she would carry on, even if it meant facing the icy heart of the Tsar billionaire. Dmitry Volkov's mansion on the banks of the Neva River stood like a beacon of opulence amidst St. Petersburg's relentless winter, its golden domes reflecting the pale light of dawn. For Anna Petrova, the days in the mansion had become a delicate dance between the relief of knowing her 6-year-old son, Misha, was safe, and the constant tension of the contract binding her to the Tsar billionaire. The revelation of Misha's secret, though it had shaken Dmitry's trust, brought a subtle shift in their dynamic. Regular visits to her son, now permitted, were like sparks of hope in a world of cold marble and cruel clauses. Still, Anna felt every step in that palace was a test, and Dmitry's heart remained an enigma wrapped in luxury. That morning, the sky was clear, a rare crystalline blue that made the snow glisten like diamonds in the mansion's gardens. Anna woke early, her room bathed in soft light filtering through the balcony's stained glass windows. The sea-green silk walls seemed almost liquid under the glow of the amber chandelier, and the scent of fresh lilies mingled with the black tea Irina had left on the desk. Anna wore a beige wool sweater and dark pants, her simple clothes contrasting with the haute couture dress Irina had insisted she wear at the previous night's dinner. Sitting on the edge of the bed, she held Misha's photo, the boy's smile, framed by a crooked woolen hat. The letter that had nearly cost her everything was now tucked in a drawer, guarded like a treasure. A knock at the door made her look up. Irina entered, her navy blue dress impeccable, her gray hair tied in a neat bun. "Good morning, Miss Petrova," she said with a warm smile. "Mr. Volkov asked you to prepare for a trip. He'll meet you in the foyer in 1 hour." Anna frowned, surprised. "A trip where to?" she asked, her voice tinged with caution. Since arriving at the mansion, her outings had been limited to visits to Misha, always under a driver's supervision. Irina hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "He didn't say, but he asked you to bring warm clothes. I'll pack a bag. For you." Before Anna could ask more, Irina left, leaving her with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. An hour later, Anna descended the curved staircase to the foyer, the onyx and white marble mosaic reflecting her steps. She wore a gray wool coat, a red scarf that had belonged to her mother, and simple boots that seemed out of place in the opulent setting. Dmitry waited near the carved double doors, wearing a black cashmere overcoat that accentuated his imposing figure. His gray eyes, always so impenetrable, fixed on her with an intensity that made her pause. Beside him, a security guard carried 2 leather suitcases, and through the smoked glass windows, Anna saw a Gulfstream G650 jet gleaming on the private runway in the garden. "Let's go," Dmitry said, his voice firm but lacking its usual coldness. He opened the door, icy air flooding the foyer, and Anna followed him to the jet, the wind cutting her skin. The plane's interior was a sanctuary of luxury. Beige leather seats, polished walnut panels, and a bar with crystal bottles glinting under recessed lights. Anna sat, her hands clasped in her lap, while Dmitry took the seat across from her, flipping through documents in a leather folder. "Where are we going?" Anna asked, unable to curb her curiosity. Dmitry looked up, a faint glint of mystery in his eyes. "Karelia," he replied, closing the folder. "I have a property there. We need a quieter place to discuss the future." The flight was short but silent, with Anna gazing out the window as Russia's snow-covered forests passed below. Karelia, a region of frozen lakes and towering pines, revealed itself as a scene of wild beauty when the jet landed on a private airstrip. A black Range Rover awaited, and the driver took them along a winding road to a carved wooden dacha, nestled on the edge of a frozen lake. The house, though smaller than the mansion, was equally opulent. Cedar roof, windows with sculpted frames, and a snow-dusted veranda overlooking the horizon, where the northern lights began to dance, ribbons of green and purple rippling in the sky. Dmitry led Anna inside, where a stone fireplace crackled, filling the air with the scent of burning pine. The interior was a balance of rusticity and luxury, Persian rugs on the wooden floor, blue velvet sofas, and a dining table with a gleaming silver samovar beside porcelain teacups. "You'll stay here for a few days," Dmitry said, removing his overcoat and hanging it on a bronze rack. "The doctors will come tomorrow to continue the exams. But today is for rest." Anna frowned, surprised by the almost gentle tone. "Why here?" she asked, looking out the window where the northern lights illuminated the lake like a mirror of colors. Dmitry hesitated, his eyes fixed on the fireplace. "Because I needed to get out of the city," he said, his voice low. "And I thought you did too." The day passed in an unexpected calm. Anna explored the dacha, discovering a small greenhouse where red roses bloomed despite the cold, and a smaller library filled with Russian poetry books and Tchaikovsky's sheet music. Dmitry, to her surprise, spent the afternoon with her, showing her the frozen lake where he skated as a child. "My mother brought me here," he said, pointing to the snow-covered shore. "It was the only place I felt free." The confession, so rare, made Anna pause, her green eyes studying him with curiosity. That night, after a simple dinner of borscht and rye bread served on ceramic plates, Dmitry led Anna to the veranda, where wool blankets shielded them from the cold. The northern lights were at their peak, a spectacle of colors that seemed to pulse with life. "It's beautiful," Anna whispered, her breath forming clouds in the air. "It's more than beautiful," Dmitry said, his voice soft for the first time. "It's like the sky is alive." He looked at her, and under the green glow of the aurora, his gray eyes seemed less cold. "Why art, Anna? Why restoration?" The question caught her off guard. Anna pulled the blanket tighter around herself, thinking, "Because it's like saving something that's been forgotten," she said, her voice low. "Every crack, every faded piece has a story, and when I restore it, I feel like I'm giving it a second chance." Dmitry nodded, a glint of understanding in his eyes. "I get that," he murmured, wanting to save something. Or someone. The silence between them was comfortable, for the first time. Later, in the dacha's music room, Dmitry sat at a grand piano, his hands gliding over the keys to play a slow, melancholic Tchaikovsky melody. Anna, drawn by the music, sat beside him, hesitating before playing a simple harmony, a song her mother used to sing to her. The notes intertwined, creating something new, and when they finished, their gazes met, a silent connection that made Anna's heart race. Back in her room, with the northern lights still visible through the window, Anna lay in bed, the wool blanket warm against her skin. The dacha, with its luxurious simplicity, was a contrast to the mansion, but the real contrast was Dmitry. The man who saved a sparrow, who spoke of his mother with longing, who played Tchaikovsky with emotion, was more than the Tsar billionaire. But the contract, with its relentless clauses, still loomed like a shadow. Anna closed her eyes, thinking of Misha, the Aurora, and the man who was beginning to challenge her defenses. For Misha, she needed to stay strong, but for the first time, she felt she might find something beyond sacrifice in that palace of ice and light. Winter in Karelia was a spectacle of silence and wild beauty, with snow-covered pine forests stretching to the horizon and the frozen lake reflecting the northern lights. Dmitry Volkov's dacha, with its cedar roof and intricately carved wooden veranda, was a haven of warmth and luxury amidst the vast icy expanse. For Anna Petrova, the days there had brought an unexpected truce, a pause where the coldness of the contract seemed softened by the humanity Dmitry was beginning to reveal. The melody shared at the piano, the confessions under the northern lights, and the flicker of vulnerability in his gray eyes had planted a seed of doubt in Anna. Perhaps the Tsar billionaire was more than the mask of power he wore. But the weight of the contract, with its relentless clauses, still reminded her that this moment of connection was fragile, like the thin ice on the lake. That morning, the sky was overcast, with dark clouds promising a storm. Anna woke to the sound of the wind howling against the dacha's windows, the sculpted frames trembling slightly. The room, smaller than the one in the mansion, was cozy, with polished wooden walls, a red wool rug, and a stone fireplace crackling, casting dancing shadows over the bed draped in cashmere blankets. Anna wore a gray wool sweater and dark pants, her golden brown hair loose over her shoulders. She held a cup of black tea, served in a porcelain cup with golden rims, as she gazed out the window. The northern lights had vanished, replaced by a sky that seemed to swallow the light, and the lake, now stirred by the wind, rippled under a fresh layer of snow. A firm knock at the door made her turn. Dmitry entered, his presence filling the space with an intensity that still unnerved her. He wore a dark blue cashmere sweater over a white shirt, a rare casualness that softened his chiseled features. His gray eyes, however, were tense, and he held a tablet in his hand. "Good morning, Anna," he said, his deep voice laced with restrained urgency. The doctors are delayed due to the storm. We'll wait here until the weather clears. Anna nodded, feeling a momentary relief. The medical exams, part of the in vitro fertilization process, were a constant reminder of the contract, and any delay was welcome. "All right," she replied, setting the cup on the nightstand. "How's the road?" "Impassable for now," Dmitry said, walking to the window and looking at the lake. "The storm will worsen before it improves." He paused, his fingers tapping the tablet, then turned to her. "I want to show you something. Come with me." Curious, Anna followed him through a narrow corridor, its walls adorned with old photographs in silver frames. The images showed a dark-haired woman with gentle eyes, holding a young boy by a frozen lake, both smiling in the winter light. Anna recognized the lake from the dacha and felt a pang of curiosity, but Dmitry offered no explanations. They descended, a wooden staircase to an underground room, lit by recessed lights that highlighted mahogany shelves filled with files and metal boxes. In the center, a glass table held a holographic projector, a piece of technology that seemed out of place in the dacha's rusticity. "What is this place?" Anna asked, her voice echoing in the cold space. "My personal archive," Dmitry replied, activating the projector with a tap on the tablet. A hologram of documents and photos floated above the table, spinning slowly. "This is where I keep everything that matters to the Volkov Empire, and to me." Anna frowned, stepping closer. One of the holographic photos showed the same woman, from the corridor photos but now in a hospital, pale with tubes connected to her. Beside it, a document with a Swiss clinic's logo caught her eye. Before she could ask, Dmitry spoke, his voice low and heavy with emotion. "That was my sister, Irina. She died 6 years ago." Anna turned to him, shocked. Dmitry's usual coldness was gone, replaced by a raw pain he seemed to struggle to contain. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice soft. "You never mentioned a sister." "I don't," Dmitry cut in, but without harshness. He pointed to the hologram where a handwritten letter appeared. "She was everything to me. My mother died when I was a child, and Irina raised me. When she got sick, I promised to save her. I built hospitals, funded research, but it wasn't enough." Anna felt a tightness in her chest, seeing the weight of guilt in Dmitry's eyes. "Is that why the heir?" she asked hesitantly. "To carry on what she meant to you?" Dmitry looked at her, his gray eyes glinting under the hologram's light. "Not just that," he admitted, his voice almost a whisper. "Irina wanted me to have a family, something she never could. The Volkov Empire needs an heir, but I want to honor her memory." The silence between them was heavy, but not uncomfortable. Anna looked at the hologram, Irina's letter written in delicate handwriting. The words, "You deserve to love Dmitry," stood out, and she felt an unexpected connection to this woman she'd never met. "She sounds like she was incredible," Anna said, her voice soft. "And you loved her deeply." Dmitry nodded, shutting off the projector with a tap. The room darkened, lit only by the faint light from the staircase. "I don't talk about her," he said, his voice hoarse. "But I thought you deserved to." "No, you have Misha. You understand what it's like to fight for someone." Anna swallowed hard, tears threatening to fall. The mention of Misha brought a wave of longing, but also a new understanding of Dmitry. "I do," she murmured, looking at him. "And I'm sorry for hiding Misha from you. I just wanted to protect him." Dmitry studied her, a flicker of something, perhaps respect in his eyes. "I know," he said, heading for the staircase. "Let's go back. The storm's getting worse." Back in the main room, the wind howled against the windows and snow fell in thick curtains, isolating the dacha from the world. Anna sat by the fireplace, a wool blanket over her shoulders, while Dmitry poured 2 glasses of artisanal vodka from a crystal bottle. He handed one to her, sitting on the opposite sofa, and for the first time they talked without the contract's shadow looming directly over them. Anna shared stories of Misha, how he drew dragons with crayons and dreamed of being an astronaut. Dmitry listened, a rare smile curving his lips, and shared memories of Irina, how she taught him to play piano and skate on the lake. As the storm reached its peak, the dacha's lights flickered, and a clap of thunder echoed, making Anna flinch. Dmitry stood checking the windows, but upon returning he paused beside her, gazing at the fireplace. "Have you ever thought about what you want, Anna?" he asked, his voice low. "Beyond Misha, beyond the money?" The question caught her, off guard. Anna gripped the glass, the vodka's warmth heating her hands. "I want Misha to be happy," she said hesitantly. "And I want to be more than a contract. I want to be myself again." Dmitry looked at her, his gray eyes softened. "By the flames, maybe you can," he said before stepping away as if afraid to say more. That night, unable to sleep with the storm's roar, Anna went to the dacha's library, where she found a volume of Pushkin's poems. Sitting by a window, with snow pelting the glass, she read aloud, the words echoing in the quiet room. Dmitry, drawn by her voice, appeared at the door, leaning against the frame. "You read well," he said, a note of admiration in his voice. Anna smiled shyly. "My mother used to read to me," she said, closing the book. "It was how she made me forget the world." Dmitry approached, sitting beside her. "Irina did the same," he murmured, looking at the storm outside. For a moment they sat in silence, the storm binding them in a bubble of intimacy. When Anna returned to her room, the dacha felt less like a temporary refuge and more like a place where something new was being born. But the contract, with its impending medical exams, still awaited, and Irina's truth only deepened Dmitry's mystery. For Misha, and now perhaps for herself, Anna knew she had to navigate this dangerous terrain with care. The storm in Karelia had passed, leaving Dmitry Volkov's dacha enveloped in a crystalline silence, the frozen lake gleaming like a mirror under the clear sky. For Anna Petrova, the days there had opened a window into Dmitry's heart, revealing a man marked by the loss of his sister Irina, but also capable of tender gestures, like saving a sparrow or playing Tchaikovsky on the piano. The connection that had blossomed between them, under the northern lights and the confessions by the fireplace, was fragile but real, and Anna felt torn between the hope of something more and the weight of the contract binding her to the Tsar, Billionaire. As they returned to the mansion in St. Petersburg, the Gulfstream G650 jet slicing through the snowy sky, Anna carried a mix of relief at seeing Misha again and apprehension about what the future held. Back at the mansion on the banks of the Neva River, the palace's opulence seemed even more imposing after the rustic simplicity of the dacha. The golden domes gleamed against the gray sky, and the stained glass windows of the foyer cast colorful mosaics onto the onyx and white marble mosaic floor. Anna, wearing a beige sweater and dark pants, felt small amidst the grandeur, but her longing for Misha propelled her forward. In the sea-green silk room, she held her son's photo, tracing the outline of his crooked smile, before descending to meet Dmitry in the main hall. Dmitry awaited her by the marble fireplace, where birch logs crackled, filling the air with a warm scent. He wore a tailored dark gray suit, the Patek Philippe watch glinting on his wrist, but his gray eyes, once so cold, now held a spark of determination. "Anna," he began, his deep voice softened, "I thought a lot in Karelia. About you, about Misha, about what family means." He paused, crossing his arms. "I want Misha to come live here in the mansion, not as a guest, but as part of this." Anna blinked, her heart racing. "Live here?" she asked, her voice trembling with surprise. "You mean, with you? With me?" Dmitry nodded, gesturing toward a curved staircase leading to the second floor. "Come, I want to show you something." Curious, Anna followed him through corridors lined with blue velvet tapestries, passing portraits of czars and crystal candelabras that tinkled softly. They reached a wing of the mansion Anna had never seen, where double mahogany doors opened, to reveal a space transformed into a child's paradise. Misha's room was a dream, walls painted with stars that glowed in the dark, a private planetarium projecting constellations on the ceiling, and a library of Russian fairy tales with gold-embossed leather covers. High-tech toys like a storytelling robot and a miniature drone were arranged on oak shelves, while Astrakhan rugs and restored Orthodox icons evoked Anna's humble home. Irina, with her maternal smile, had overseen every detail, ensuring the space was welcoming. "It's for him," Dmitry said, his voice laced with restrained emotion. "I want Misha to have everything he never had, and I want you to feel at home." Anna touched an icon of St. Nicholas on the wall, her eyes welling with tears. "You did this for him?" she asked, turning to Dmitry. "Why now?" Dmitry hesitated, his gaze fixed on the planetarium. "Because I saw how you fight for him," he said, his voice low. "And because Irina taught me that family is more than an empire. Misha deserves a home, and you deserve not to have to choose between him and this." He gestured to the room, but Anna felt he was speaking of the contract. Days later, Misha arrived at the mansion in a black Rolls-Royce Phantom, his green eyes wide with fascination. Wearing a navy blue coat and a woolen hat, he clutched Anna's hand as they crossed the foyer, marveling at the amber chandelier that seemed to float like a crown of fire. Dmitry met them in the garage, where his car collection gleamed under LED lights. A black Maybach Excelero shone beside a display case of jewel-encrusted Fabergé eggs, and Misha exclaimed, running to touch the car's hood. "It's like a spaceship," he said, laughing. Dmitry smiled, a rare and genuine expression, and knelt beside the boy. "Want to see the rest?" he asked, leading Misha to explore the garage. Anna watched, her heart tightening, as Dmitry showed Misha a gold Bugatti Chiron, sharing stories of races in Monaco. Later, in Dmitry's office, with oak-paneled walls and a bronze globe, he taught Misha to play chess on an onyx board, the pawns carved like Russian knights. "The knight is clever," Dmitry said, moving a piece. "Like you." Misha laughed, focused as Dmitry told stories of cosmonauts, like Yuri Gagarin, who saw Earth from space. That night, dinner was served in a hall with gold-leafed walls, under a baccarat chandelier cascading like diamonds. The table, draped in white damask, held imperial porcelain plates, sterling silver cutlery, and crystal goblets with blue champagne for the adults and pomegranate juice for Misha. The menu featured beluga caviar, borscht with sour cream, and roasted duck with cherry sauce, served by waiters in impeccable uniforms. Misha, seated between Anna and Dmitry, swung his legs in the chair, enchanted by the gleaming fork. He looked at Dmitry, his green eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Do you like my mommy?" he asked, his childish voice cutting through the silence. Anna froze, her soup spoon pausing mid-air. Dmitry looked at Misha, then at Anna, a gentle smile curving his lips. "Your mother is unique," he said, his voice warm. "She's strong, like a tsarina." Misha grinned, satisfied, and returned to his plate. Anna felt her face flush, her heart racing. Under the table, Dmitry's hand brushed hers, a brief but electric touch that made her look at him. His gray eyes met hers, and for a moment, the hall with its Venetian mirrors and frescoes vanished. Anna felt something new, something beyond the contract, the possibility of a family. But as she lay in Misha's room that night, watching him sleep under the planetarium, the contract still haunted her. The mansion, with its czarist splendor, was a home in the making, but the agreement's relentless clauses reminded her that her happiness was still at stake. Dmitry Volkov's mansion on the banks of the Neva River had transformed since Misha's arrival, with the boy's laughter echoing through the marble corridors and breathing life into the opulent halls. For Anna Petrova, her son's presence in the mansion was a balm, but also a constant reminder of the contract that still bound her to the Tsar Billionaire. Her pregnancy, now advanced, weighed on her body and her heart as she navigated between the hope of a family with Dmitry and Misha and the fear that the agreement might tear them apart. The connection with Dmitry, strengthened in Karelia and solidified through interactions with Misha, was a flame Anna feared could be extinguished by the contract's relentless clauses. Yet, the mansion, With its golden domes and gleaming stained glass, Windows was starting to feel less like a prison and more like a home in the making. That morning, the St. Petersburg sky was a pearly gray, with snowflakes gently falling over the winter garden, where exotic orchids bloomed under a glass dome. Anna woke to a sharp pain in her abdomen. The sea-green silk room bathed in pale light filtering through the balcony's stained glass windows. Wearing a cashmere robe, she clutched her belly, her heart racing, as Irina, the housekeeper, entered. With a tea tray. Seeing Anna's pale face, Irina dropped the tray, the silver samovar clinking against the floor. "Miss Petrova, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. "It's the baby," Anna murmured, her voice weak. "It's coming. Too early." Irina acted swiftly, calling Dmitry, who entered the room in seconds, his navy blue. Suit impeccable, but his gray eyes etched with anxiety. "Anna, hold on," he said, his voice firm yet laced with emotion. He grabbed his phone, ordering a Sikorsky helicopter to be readied immediately. Minutes later, the roar of the blades echoed over the mansion, and Anna, supported by Dmitry, was rushed to the aircraft. The helicopter's interior, with black leather seats and walnut panels, contrasted with the urgency of the moment. Dmitry held Anna's hand, their fingers intertwined, as the pilot sliced through the snowy sky toward a private clinic in St. Petersburg. In the VIP suite of the hospital, with panoramic windows offering a view of the Neva River and St. Isaac's Cathedral, an elite medical team worked with precision. The white walls were softened by light wood panels, and a crystal chandelier cast a gentle glow over the room. Anna, lying on an adjustable bed, gripped Dmitry's hand, her face contorted with pain. "It'll be all right," he murmured, his voice breaking as the doctors monitored vital signs. Dmitry, always so untouchable, seemed vulnerable. His brown hair falling over his forehead, his eyes fixed on Anna with an intensity that went beyond the contract. After hours of tension, a baby's cry echoed through the room, a sound that made Anna sob with relief. The doctor, a gray-haired woman with thin-framed glasses, handed the baby to Dmitry, who held her with unexpected tenderness. The girl, wrapped in a white cashmere blanket, had green eyes like Anna's and a tuft of brown hair. "Sophia," Dmitry whispered, the name they had chosen together weeks earlier, inspired by a legendary tsarina. Tears streamed down his face, shocking contrast to the image of the Tsar billionaire who commanded empires. He handed Sophia to Anna, who embraced her, her heart overflowing as she kissed her daughter's forehead. Back at the mansion days later, Anna recovered in a room adapted for her and Sophia, with a carved mahogany crib and pink velvet curtains. Misha, fascinated by his sister, spent hours drawing dragons for her with crayons, while Irina watched with her maternal smile. Dmitry, however, seemed changed, more present, less distant. He canceled meetings to be with Sophia, holding her while reading Russian fairy tales, and played with Misha in the private planetarium, pointing out stars on the ceiling. One night in the hall with pink marble walls, lit by crystal candelabras, Dmitry called Anna for a conversation. Wearing a dark blue blazer over a white shirt, he stood by the fireplace, holding a leather folder. "Anna," he began, his deep voice soft, "since Sophia was born, I can't think of a future without you, without Misha, without her." He opened the folder, revealing the contract, its pages marked with cold clauses. With a firm motion, he tore the document in half, the pieces falling into the fireplace flames, where they burned in shades of orange and gray. Anna gasped, her green eyes wide. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I love you, Anna," Dmitry said, stepping forward, his gray eyes shining with emotion. "I want a real family, with you, Misha, and Sophia. Not a contract, not an heir, but a home." He pulled a velvet box from his pocket, opening it to reveal a Fabergé diamond ring, with a blue sapphire stone surrounded by gold filigree. "Marry me." Tears streamed down Anna's face, a mix of relief and joy. She looked at the ring, then at Dmitry, seeing the man he had become. Not the cold czar, but someone who cried for his daughter and played chess with her son. "Yes," she whispered, her voice choked. "But I need time to plan, to understand what this means for us." Dmitry nodded, a rare smile lighting his face. "All the time you need," he said, slipping the ring onto her finger. "I'll reshape my empire to include you, against all odds." He pulled her into an embrace, and Anna felt his warmth, the scent of cedar and leather, as the fire crackled behind them. That night, lying beside Sophia, with Misha sleeping in the next room, Anna looked at the ring, the diamond reflecting the moonlight. The mansion, with its golden halls and tapestries, was now a home, but the future still held uncertainties. Dmitry would defy his advisors, powerful men who saw Anna as an outsider, and she needed to find her place in that world. For Misha, for Sophia, and now for Dmitry. Anna knew she was ready to fight for the family they had built against all odds. Dmitry Volkov's mansion on the banks of the Neva River had become a vibrant home, filled with Misha's laughter, Sophia's soft cries, and the growing love between Anna Petrova and Dmitry. After Sophia's birth and the breaking of the contract, the promise of a future together transformed the opulent palace into a sanctuary of family. Anna, now Dmitry's fiancée, felt herself in a delicate balance. The Fabergé diamond ring on her finger was a symbol of hope, but also a reminder of the challenges they would face. Dmitry's advisors, powerful men of the Volkov Empire, saw her as an outsider, and adapting to the Tsar Billionaire's world demanded courage. Still, the mansion, with its golden domes and marble halls, pulsed with new energy, and the impending wedding promised to seal their unlikely union. On the morning of the wedding, St. Petersburg awoke under a rare blue sky, the sun reflecting off the Neva River and the domes of St. Isaac's Cathedral. The cathedral, a monument of golden stone and shimmering mosaics, was chosen for the ceremony, its bronze doors opened to welcome guests from around the world. The interior was a spectacle. Orthodox icons restored by Anna gleamed under candlelight, and baccarat crystal chandeliers cascaded from the vaulted ceiling, casting prisms of light across the carved wooden pews. White flowers, lilies and roses, adorned the altar, and a choir of Russian voices sang ancient hymns, filling the space with an ethereal melody. Anna, in the cathedral's dressing room, gazed at her reflection in a Venetian mirror. Her dress, inspired by Zarina's, was a masterpiece. White silk embroidered with gold threads, with a train that flowed like a shimmering river. A tiara of pearls and sapphires, a gift from Dmitry, rested on her golden brown hair, styled in soft waves. Irina, in her navy blue dress with a maternal smile, adjusted the lace veil, while Sophia, in the housekeeper's arms, babbled in a white lace dress that seemed made for a princess. "You look beautiful, dear," Irina said, her eyes misty. "Like a czarina," Anna smiled, her heart racing. "Thank you, Irina," she replied, her voice soft, "for everything." She looked at Sophia, her green eyes identical to her own, and felt a wave of gratitude for the family they had built against all odds. In the cathedral's corridor, Misha waited, impeccable in a tailored navy blue suit, his brown hair neatly combed. He held a velvet cushion with the wedding rings, a pair of gold bands encrusted with diamonds designed by Dmitry. "Mommy, you look like a queen," he exclaimed, running to hug her. Anna laughed, kissing his forehead, as the boy took her hand, ready to fulfill his role. When the cathedral doors opened, the choir's song reached its crescendo, and Anna walked down the central aisle, her dress sparkling under the chandelier's light. The guests, Russian magnates, European diplomats, and even a distant prince, turned to admire, but Anna's eyes were fixed on Dmitry. He stood at the altar, in a black tailcoat with gold accents, his chiseled face lit by a rare smile. His gray eyes, once so cold, now brimmed with emotion, and Anna felt the world fade away as she reached him. The ceremony, led by an Orthodox patriarch in embroidered robes, was solemn and deeply Russian, with incense wafting through the air and golden, candles flickering. Dmitry and Anna exchanged vows, promising love and loyalty, while Misha, proud, presented the rings. Sophia, in Irina's arms, let out a giggle, breaking the solemnity and drawing smiles from the guests. When the patriarch pronounced them husband and wife, Dmitry pulled Anna into a kiss, his lips warm against hers, sealing the promise amid applause that echoed through the cathedral. The reception was held at the mansion, transformed into a spectacle of czarist luxury. The ballroom, with gold-leafed walls and a ceiling painted with cloud frescoes, was decorated with tables draped in white damask, laden with beluga caviar, artisanal vodka in crystal bottles, and chocolate desserts adorned with gold leaf. Cossack dancers performed in red uniforms, their boots resounding on the marble floor, while an orchestra played Tchaikovsky waltzes. Projectors created an artificial aurora on the ceiling, with green and purple lights dancing like those Anna and Dmitry had seen in Karelia, symbolizing their love. Anna and Dmitry opened the dance, him guiding her firmly across the floor, her gown swirling like a golden cloud. "You are my tsarina," he whispered, his eyes locked on hers. Anna smiled, her heart light, as they twirled under the aurora. Misha, darting among the guests, pulled Dmitry aside to dance, and the billionaire, laughing, spun the boy in the air, while Sophia clapped joyfully in Irina's arms. Later, under the starry sky of St. Petersburg, Anna and Dmitry slipped away to the mansion's balcony, the Neva River shimmering beneath the moon. Wrapped in cashmere throws, they gazed at the city, its golden domes glinting like beacons. "We did it," Anna said, her voice soft, resting her head on his shoulder. "Against everything." Dmitry kissed her forehead, the scent of cedar and leather enveloping her. "And we'll face the future together," he promised, his voice firm. The mansion, once a cold palace, was now a home filled with life. Misha's laughter, Sophia's cries, and the love between Dmitry and Anna. But as they looked at the stars, a question lingered, unspoken yet present. Did Anna make the right choice in trusting the Tsar billionaire? Their story, forged in sacrifice and luxury, left the answer to the heart of each beholder. What did you think of Anna and Dmitry's story? Wow, what a journey through love, sacrifice, and luxury in the icy heart of St. Petersburg. Now it's your turn to share your thoughts on Anna and Dmitry's epic tale. What did you love most? Was it the sparkling romance, Misha's heartwarming moments, or the czarist grandeur of the mansion? Drop your favorite part in the comments, pick an emoji. Which emoji captures this story for you? Share it below, rate the story. On a scale of 0 to 10, how much did Anna and Dmitry's love story captivate you? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you never miss another unforgettable story. If you're a fan of tales with impossible happy endings, share this with someone who loves them too. Let's spread the magic of Anna and Dmitry's journey. We can't wait to hear your thoughts. Let's make the comments section sparkle like a Fabergé egg.